So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the neck. Okay. And you can just use your fingers to get it right on. Make sure you like to, okay, now when you get to the corner, you do kind of like a little L like we did before, where you go down the neck and then over. I got a pin right there. But you just kind of do a little L right there, okay? And then you also do a little L on your dart. Here, let me pin that back down, it might. Okay, so when I get to my dart, I've got to find that line, which is right here, and I do a little L where I went over from the shoulder and then down the side of the dart. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Okay, where I go down the shoulder line and then across the fold line. So can you see that, those little L's, you guys? Okay, and then when I get here, I want to put a dot at the top of that ridge, right where it meets up with the shoulder, okay? Now I can also follow that ridge down to here. So I can, it's actually more over here. Okay, and sometimes following that ridge, you just stay on the top of that ridge, okay? And then when you get down to about where the dart, where the ease is, you stop. Okay, now I don't do the underarm. Now I come over to where the plate, the metal plate meets the side seam, okay? And I put a dot there. I'm not gonna draw in my, I don't draw, if you'll notice, I did not dot in my shoulder seam. It's a straight line, so I can true that up after with a ruler. I just start to end. Same thing with the side seam. I'm gonna do one right under the metal plate at the side seam. And remember, you're on this, on the opposite side. And then I'm gonna come down here and do the same thing. Now, let me just mention, do you see this tape at the waist? So if I mark it in the middle, then I haven't given any lengthwise ease. And if you remember, we need a little bit of lengthwise ease in the bodice, 1/4 inch to 3/8, if you remember your basic ease amounts. So if I, instead of marking the middle, if I mark this at the bottom, I've added in my ease. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna mark the bottom, and I'm just gonna follow that with little dots. Here's my dart, so I do the little L, okay? And just follow that bottom of the tape until I get, wait, okay, yeah. And then this goes right there on that side, okay? All right, I've marked, let me just review. I've marked the waist, I've marked the darts. What haven't I marked? I haven't marked the tip, which might change anyway, but, and then I've marked the neck, I've marked the shoulder where it matches up and the dart, the top of the sleeve cap, underneath and here, okay? And then I've got, yeah, I marked that dart. Okay, we're good? Okay, let's take it off and finish our lines. So let's put this up here and we will finish doing our lines. Okay, and so, all right, so I'm gonna take this. Can you see how the little L's that I've got here? So I take my ruler and, well, first I've got 2 dots here and I'm gonna go in the middle because I think that's where it goes. And I'm just gonna follow this down. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop. Now, one thing I'm gonna do is, this was under the throat plate at the seam, and this was the waist at the seam. So technically, that would be my straight line. However, I don't want my armhole to go right up to the bottom of that plate, So I go down, put your ruler where the two dots connect, go down an inch, okay? So that gives me an inch down for my armhole. Typically, a fitted bodice, the armhole, you want to fit it an inch below. Then I'm gonna go over here and I'm going to add my bust. I'm gonna add the bust ease, okay? And if I do 2 inches at the bust, that means I need ½ an inch on that 1/4 area, right? If you wanted 3 inches of ease, then you would go out 3/4 of an inch. Okay, I'm just gonna do a ½ an inch, just do a ½ an inch, because it gets a little, when you put it back on, you'll think, oh, it doesn't fit at all. Well, we've added ease. So, okay, so now I have a new dot, and so now I can draw my side seam, which is a straight seam. Okay, all right, so I got that. Let's draw the neck. Now, one thing about the neck is that this needs to be a right angle. Okay, so now I'm just gonna follow the dots. Follow the dots. We've all done that, right? Okay, and this one also needs to be a right angle, but your waist is not often a straight line. So this right here also needs to be a straight angle, or 90-degree angle. So 90 degrees, 90 degrees. Okay, and so now I'm gonna come across like that, and then I'm gonna come across. Now this one I could hold off because I wanna make sure this matches up to the back. So I might just hold off on this one here, okay? The next thing I'm gonna do, I can do my shoulders because those are straight lines, except the dart legs may be off a little bit. So let's take our bust point and let's do a little bit of an arc for the bust circle, okay? And what do you know about darts? If I have 2 darts, one from different seams, how far should they come to the bust point inside the bust circle?
½ an inch.
About ½ an inch. 3/8, ½ an inch, 5/8. You'll kind of get a feel for that. So by doing this, it kind of helps me. So even though when I drape it, it looks like it wants to go really close to the bust. See, look at, so here's my bust circle. So this is 2 inches, and this is 2 inches. But look where I marked the end. I just did a little small one, but look at where that one ends, you guys. Can everyone see that? Now that I like it, I'll make it darker. Okay, that looks like it is exactly where it should be, right? This one is a little bit more, but I'm gonna back it off a little bit and do about a ½ an inch. Okay, so once I get where I want the point, the tip of the dart, then I can go back to the leg, okay? Okay, there's that dart, and then I can do this dart, okay? So one of the hardest things that's gonna get right, that you need to get correct on here, is first of all balancing, because at the end when I get the back, we got to balance and make sure the side seams are on the same grain, and if they're not, then I have to put them back on the dress form. So we're all gonna be holding our breath for a moment. But the other thing is, so balancing it with this balance line that I had. The other thing is getting your darts right. The other thing that's going to be tricky is the armhole. Okay, now that I've drawn in my darts, I'm going to measure and make sure they're the same length. Okay, so that is 6.5, and that is 6.5 if I go down a ways, like down about a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to redraw this to kind of come down just a little bit, okay? Now my dart legs are the same length. So let's measure here. And this is like 8, barely 8 3/4. and this is a little over 8 3/4, like an 1/8 of an inch over. So that means that these legs are an 1/8 of an inch off. Okay, so what should we do? Well, I'm gonna lengthen this one by a 1/16 and shorten that one by a 1/16. Okay, so now let's measure that new. So that's like 8 and not quite 7/8. And this one, because I went down, is 8 and yeah, so that's good. So let me now that I've got that, I'm gonna go ahead and draw this line. I've got a fat felt pen, so it's hard to, and then this one, I'm gonna make it just a little bit longer, and I'm gonna do that now. Okay, all right. Does that look like a bodice? The beginning of a bodice? Good, all right. Okay, so I think that's as much as I'll do today, because on Tuesday, I'm gonna do the bodice back. And then when I do the bodice back, I'm gonna make sure that this line runs across, and I make sure that this is balanced. Once I get this balanced, well, I'm also gonna draw the bottom. So I think I'll do the back where I do the bottom of the sleeve, and then I finish up the waist, and then we'll check to see if it balances. Okay, and then if it balances and it looks good, then I will go ahead and trim it, and luckily, look at that, I did not cut into the seam. So be careful, but look how close I am. Okay, and this, I knew where the seam was, so I kind of cut down a ways. But you'll do your half inch. This is really the only one that's an inch, because this is curved, this is angled. Okay.